minute, fella. Look here.
Stand by.
One for C-Lab, two for Draw Eagle, three for Wolverine to round out the trio. In this episode, everybody dies.
Broadcasting live from inside the Power Band, this is The Blah. In this episode, everybody dies. I'm your host, Kevin, also known as the Wolverine, along with my intrepid companion, singular, head in a jar, Higo.
Ahoy hoy.
Also known as Ben. Welcome to the show, folks. That's right. This week we're doing a Twofer Hawat show as Chad is on vacation. Lame. So it's just going to be me and Benny. And this week we're talking about the 2004 classic, or 2005 classic, rather. Sorry. Sin City. From Frank Miller and Robert Rodriguez, starring a whole slew of excellent performers. A lot of EBD favorites and all-stars in this cast. Let's get to it. High level. Benny, go.
Yeah. Man, I feel like we were both big fans of this back in the day, right? Like we were. This is like probably. I feel like it came out after we met, right? Maybe. Like
Yeah, it might have. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing this in the theater, and I was absolutely crazy about it. After watching it this time, due to the bizarre effect that like UHD can have on movies sometimes, it just looked really weird and fake, and it really threw me off. But like after I watched it, I kind of took some time to digest it. I ended up watching sort of a 15-minute video where Rob Rodriguez was talking about, you know, the making of the movie and seeing what they went through with green screen and, you know, just color choices and all this stuff. It really kind of brought me back around.
Yeah, nice. Interesting.
Other than that, it kind of cracked me up this time.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's intended to do that, as I feel like I remember it being rather dark and violent.
Yes.
But for some reason, all of that tickled my funny bone a little bit on this watching.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm at.
Okay. Interesting. Nice high level.
How about you, Mulvey?
Yeah, I'm going to rate that high level an 8.2.
That seems reasonable.
Let's see. High level on this movie. Wow. I loved this movie when it came out. I had never read the comics, and it was one of those things where I was always like, I got to read these comics, and I never got around to it. Then the movie came out, and I was absolutely blown away. I was even more blown away later when I did, kind of skim through a lot of the comics and realize that this movie is like panel for panel the comics. And to that end, I think I did not, as a side note, I did not watch this in ultra high def. Like you, I find it to be just too hyper real, man, and it makes movies look bizarre to me. So I watched it in regular D, as I like to say, and I feel like this is up there in the pantheon of great neo-noir movies. Number one, obviously, because it's all in black and white. But just the story itself, too. It's not just the visuals. The visuals are absolutely excellent. The way this movie was made was just so cool. It's just dripping with style. It's dripping with cool. And it's also probably one of the most faithful adaptations of a comic book and well done and well translated adaptations of a comic book I've ever seen. You know, when you can go panel for panel the way that the original artist did it. I mean, and that says a lot, man. And, kudos to Rodriguez, man. He's such a great director, dude. He's such a prolific creator. We've enjoyed some of his other stuff, man. And this is, really up there, man. And then to like invite Frank Miller in, to the entirety of the creative process and even let him direct and help direct some of the segments And then also get, a little Tarantino in there as well is just icing on the cake, man. I think it's excellent, dude. And I so enjoyed watching this. I watched the whole thing all the way through, and then I watched just the Hard Goodbye segment probably 3 more times, and then I found the extended version, as I was telling you in our little teeny pregame, on HBO, and the extended version, I kind of did an eye roll. I was like, okay, what do we got here? Unrated extended version, blah, blah, blah. And then I started watching it, and I think really what he did mostly was they added titling to each segment, and then they reordered it. So both the Yellow Bastard segments are all contained in one. Both of The Customer Is Always Right are all contained together. And it actually starts, it starts with the Dwight story, the big fat kill. And then it goes into The Hard Goodbye with Marv, and then, The Customer Is Always Right is in between those two, and then it's That Yellow Bastard at the end, and both parts are together as one. So another cool, interesting version of the movie, and I like how they didn't really change anything in the unrated version, just kind of reordered it, and I was digging that too. I had just gotten 2/3 of the way through it, so yeah, hats off to that as well.
Interesting. Yeah.
So where do we even start with this sort of masterpiece of a movie, man?
Do we break it down by section, by actor, by...
You know what? Let's go by section, man.
It's conveniently broken up into sections, right? It kind of makes it, it's like, pre-sliced pizza. You can just sort of...
Yeah,
you can just eat a piece and go from there,
All right, there you have it, folks. Pre-sliced pizza coming at you now. Why don't we just go chronologically?
Yes.
And we can start with the movie, the way the theatrical release is, and we'll talk about it referencing the theatrical release. So the theatrical release starts with The Customer Is Always Right, with Josh Hartnett and Marley Shelton. This is when I was in my major not into Josh Hartnett phase of my life, and so that,
as you do,
as you do, exactly. That notwithstanding, I think he definitely matured as he got older as a performer. But this is a great little segment, man. It's a cool way to open the movie. And it's very super noir with lots of sexy sax going on,
Yes.
And, we get the all of the dialogue between the two characters, and then, his inner monologue going as well, and at least the impression I get from this is that, he's a hitman, clearly.
Yes.
But the impression I get is that she hired him to kill her.
I wasn't really clear about that, but that would seem to make sense.
Well, I wasn't clear about it either, but...
Although we're probably both densely missing something rather important, because this is how the movie closes as well, right? He turns up to ice Becky.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know that there's any other tie-in to the movie than that.
Right.
But we might potentially be dead.
All right, we're gonna the jury's gonna be out on that.
Yeah, we'll just we'll step in it when somebody can call us out on it.
Fair enough. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and I'm happy to take a death for ejecting, but I'm not finding anything in there. But at any rate, to get back on track,
I didn't read the comics, so I don't
know. I didn't either. So I agree with you. I can't really comment, but it seems like she hired him to kill her, which is a really cool and interesting twist. So we'll just go with that for now. And I think that as the closing line is what kind of makes that short opening scene really cool and interesting.
And it's an introduction to the style of the movie, splashes of color, lots of, as you brought up, inner monologue. There's more inner monologue in this movie than potentially any other movie that I've seen. But obviously that's, an homage, an hors d'oeuvre to the comic, because I'm certain it was written that way, Yeah. Sort of narrated by whatever the main character of the story is. Yeah.
Well said.
Which is cool, because that's a very comic thing, right? You you don't see that being done in any like of the newer, DC or Marvel movies, really, where like there's that sort of inner monologue narration.
No, there's not. And I think, like, to hang there for a second, like, inner monologue, it's sort of polarizing, man. Like, it's either great and you're psyched about it, or you're just kind of like, ugh,
Yeah.
And I think this is one use case where it's done well and it serves the story well.
Yeah.
Because we're constantly getting, more backstory and exposition about this, that, and the third, so.
Yeah, it's not something you want to see in every movie, but for something that's like a very faithful adaptation of the comic, I think it's interesting, and it works here.
Right.
Although a lot of people have been like, I have, sort of watched some different videos, and people were complaining about the fact that there was so much exposition, but
yeah.
I never thought of it that way. I just thought of it as like, this is how the comic book would be written, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. But that's all those bits in the comic where they're, thinking, or we're getting some narration or whatever. So it lends itself well between the two mediums. Like, it works really, really well.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too, man. You know what? Let's take a second and just talk about the style of the film, and especially the black and white and the color splashes.
So the little sort of 15-minute video I watched where Robert Rodriguez was talking about the movie, he consulted with Frank Miller and decided to add some color splashes in different parts, either to signify like something about the character, or just to make something pop better. There were like white blood effects in this, and then there were sometimes red blood effects in this.
Yes.
And according to Robert Rodriguez, he ended up going with red for blood, like with Bruce Willis's face and Mickey Rourke's face in a couple spots, because otherwise it just looked like their faces were dirty. Like with just the black and white, and then like the white doesn't really work there either. So
interesting.
But that sort of opened the discussion to using color, and I forget exactly how he described it, which is a total fail on my part. I should have made a note about that. It ended up that they were like, Frank Miller was totally on board with the usage of color splashes.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's funny, man. Like, that he said that, because the way I interpreted it, and I still do, that every time I watch this movie, is that it seems like when there's more close-ups, it's like spatters of blood and it's red. And then when there's like buckets of blood, it's the white, like super bright, super contrasty white liquid. You know what I mean? And I dug that, or I always interpreted it as a choice that they made, you know what I mean? Not necessarily technically, but I always thought that was kind of better, because it kind of made the movie, like, it's a gory story. You know what I mean? All of the stories are really gory, right? So it's like, to use that when there's buckets of blood, I feel like is sort of more palatable, from a viewer's standpoint, than having it be red blood. You know what I mean? That would have just been like super bloody and possibly overwhelming,
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think in the comic book, most of the time the blood is just white. And that does sort of, it tracks, because I think the only spots where the blood is actually red is when you see it on somebody's face. Right. And that's just to avoid confusion with,
sure.
Like you said, it just looked dirty, like it just, in like the high contrast black and white, it just looked like their face was dirty, like when Dwight comes out of the tar pit, like it would be hard to tell the difference between that and the fact that their face was bloody. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, man. So that sort of makes it kind of even more brilliant / a sort of a happy accident, as Bob Ross would say. You know what I mean? Because
absolutely,
the way and right, I mean, like the way and where they chose to use it, I think worked really well, and they pulled it off like perfectly, man. In terms of where they put those color splashes in.
Yeah, I mean, and then that's just the blood. You know, you have Dwight's red sneakers and the red Cadillac, and the yellow bastard. You know?
Yeah.
You have like Rutger Hauer's eyes are sort of like that like green color in that sequence. You know, it's interesting where they decided to use these splashes, and it does.
Yeah.
I mean, part of me feels like it's like the early 2000 or like mid 2000s like vignette color filter for like your smartphone camera, Instagram filter kind of a thing, like but that's not the movie. The movie, I think, may have sort of started that idea.
Yes,
if that makes any sense.
No, it does. And
you see it now, and you might think,
cool.
"Oh, that's like a cheap filter,"
right?
But it's not. It's like intentional, and it's part of the storytelling.
Yeah, 100%. No, I like that a lot. You're right. It's very cool, and it works really well. I mean, I don't know. It's sort of overstating the obvious, I guess, but like beyond the blood, like just the splashes of color here and there in the story to kind of accentuate various different parts of characters' bodies, clothing and whatnot. I don't remember if that's the way it was in the comic. I honestly can't remember.
I don't think so. I think it's just
all black and
like
white,
high contrast, black and white.
Yeah. I don't know. So I think using those color splashes, it really worked well certainly for the medium of film, and it really just kind of allowed certain things to come to the foreground, that needed to be accentuated. And it just made things pop, in a really, really great way. I mean, it sounds kind of stupid, but
yes.
Like especially in like the customer is always right. I mean, she's wearing that red dress and the red lipsticks. And I mean, it makes her look just absolutely stunning.
Yes.
And I think it also lends to what's happening, in the little story that's being told and the action that's on the screen too,
Yeah, it's a very deliberate choice. You have Goldie, and her hair is blonde, and that's the only person that you see that actually has. So it's
colored hair.
Yeah, it's a very deliberate choice. And it's part of the storytelling when it's not something that's just practical like the blood stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's neat.
I think it's neat too, man. I liked how the heart-shaped bed was all like they showed the red of the bed. Again, drawing the attention to really what's like kind of the backbone of that story, man. Which is that like Wendy asks Marv, like, why are you doing all this? And he's like, because she was nice to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like he kind of fell in love with her,
Yes.
So it's sort of the motivation of that entire thread, that entire story, so it works really well in aiding that, it's cool.
Yeah, no doubt. Not to jump ahead because we're not quite there yet with that story, but I love that one opens with the heart-shaped bed and it ends with the heart-shaped bed.
Yes. Exactly.
Like, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's jump back to, or let's start rather on, or let's continue rather on, Jesus Christ. Let's continue on that.
Proceed.
Let's proceed
to the next chapter.
From where we left off, we're going to go into, we'll talk about That Yellow Bastard Part 1. So, this is classic, very classic noir, I mean, you can tell that Frank Miller is clearly pulling this stuff from like these old noir films.
Oh, yeah.
Man. And, like, Hartigan is like this classic sort of detective. I love the X scar on his forehead, man. And, again, this is where that inner monologue right in the beginning really, really works well. Him kind of talking to himself and psyching himself up and talking his way through it,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, the inner monologue thing actually works really well with the noir genre, right?
Definitely.
Like you have that in Blade Runner, which is neo noir. You have that in what the hell was the movie we watched with with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, where it's like in modern time, but the whole thing is like cut with the dialogue is very film noir. Like, brick.
Oh,
brick.
yeah, brick, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see that in both of those. So
yes, and in Rounders as well, which is another great modern noir movie. You're right. That device again, really shining through in this,
Yes.
and this story is kind of, it sets the pace for other events in the book because Nancy features prominently in a lot of the stories, man. I mean, she's in pretty much every single one of them, except The Customer Is Always Right, so
Yes.
we not only do we get to see that backstory, man, but I think the choice to cut the two parts of this story up was smart because, we get little girl Nancy and then we go through the big fat kill and the hard goodbye. And then by the time we get to that Yellow Bastard part 2, Nancy's fully grown woman, but we've already seen her as a fully grown woman, so.
Right. And upon your first viewing, you don't necessarily know it's her, right?
No, I didn't know it was her. And that was, just as a sidebar, like there was a lot of surprises watching this the first time, in terms of plot twists just like that. I think there's like 2 or 3 really good ones, and it was great to see that, as a first time viewer, man.
Yeah, it was an interesting twist because I don't know that she features like as a big part of any of the other stories, but you see her on the stage in her like her chaps, etc.
Cowboy outfit,
doing the cowboy stripper thing. Which,
This is so stupid.
But yes, yeah, and Jessica Alba, like who was in everything at that point in time, and
yes, she
seemingly has fallen off the face of the earth.
She has seemed to have fallen off the face of the earth.
She was even she was Sue Storm, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, that's right, dude.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't talk about those original Fantastic Four movies, man, or the fact that Captain America was Johnny Storm.
Yeah, we don't talk about. We don't talk about Johnny Storm.
We don't talk about Johnny Storm, but Chris Evans crushed that part, dude. He was great.
He was great. Yeah, the fucking Monster Energy drink, fucking
totally
motocross nutball,
extreme nutball,
totally extreme.
Yeah, totally. So I think this part I like. We get Michael Madsen in both of the Yellow Bastard chunks.
Yes,
and he's great. I'm not surprised to see him in this movie. He's such a great actor. We did Pulp Fiction. Well, he wasn't in Pulp Fiction, but he was in Reservoir Dogs, sort of playing a somewhat similar character, man.
Yeah.
He's just so good, man. He's just so good, dude. And he played, just such a great job playing the crooked partner who, betrays him and essentially blows him away, shoots him 9 times.
Yeah, he's I mean, there's a lot of like really obvious choices for the male characters in this movie, anyways, and he's one of them.
Agree.
Who? Yeah, never mind. I'm drawing a blank.
That's right.
It would be great if I could think of this right now.
What is it? Another character in the movie?
No, I was just thinking of another actor that we. God damn it, his name is right on the tip of my tongue. Another actor that would be good for that particular part.
Oh, I got you, man. I got you, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll come to you.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Let's move. Let's move on and talk about. Let's talk about Nick Stahl for a second. Before we move on, like this kid, Nick Stahl. I first saw Nick Stahl in, what was that Mel Gibson movie, man? The Man with Two Faces, or he's like up in Maine, and the teacher's Mel Gibson, but he he got half his face burned in a fire, and
yeah.
He ends up getting tutored by the guy. Like I think that was the first movie I saw him in. He's been around since he was a kid.
Yeah.
And I always liked him as a kid. I mean, there was a couple of things I saw him in that I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, he's a great actor, man. He really he turned into a fine performer. And You know, he was pretty good in, as crappy as Terminator 3 was, he was pretty good in it. And, you know, as an older person, and he's really great in this, man. I mean, he nailed it, dude, in terms of just the, you know, playing the two parts, man, the transformed yellow bastard and like his original self, you know, in the first part. And I don't know, I really liked him. He brought the sort of twisted intensity that the part needed because the character was just sick, absolutely sick.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I was struck by his performance on this watching.
Right?
What else has he been in? He struck me as very familiar, and then you know, besides what you previously mentioned, I was having a hard time placing him.
I know. I'm going to pull that up.
Yeah,
quick,
go for
man.
it. Go for it.
Man Without a... Oh, wow. That was his... that was one of his first big things, was The Man Without a Face. That's what that was called.
Yes.
Terminator 3, Sin City. He was in The Thin Red Line, Disturbing Behavior, Bully.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. He was on Carnivale on HBO.
That's fucking it, dude. That's it.
That's it, man.
That's it.
That's it. Right?
Yep.
That's a great... You know what? That would be a great thing to cover because it's already done and it was only 2 seasons.
Yeah, and it didn't actually have a chance to have a bad ending, so...
I know, right? Totally, man. Yeah, no. I think, yeah, that would be a good one to cover, man. I think he's definitely done a really interesting array of different things, which is cool, man. And did not reprise his role in Sin City 2, which we'll have to talk about at some point. But yeah, I don't know. He's, again, impressed and surprised with his performance. I was. I was.
Impressed I was.
Impressed I was.
Impressive your performance was. Oh, man. Yeah, Ben Hawkins. That's totally where I remember him from.
Right? Yeah, I got to watch that, man. That also had one of my, and definitely an EBD favorite, Clancy Brown.
Yes.
Dude. Like in a major role.
A major role.
Know, like I've always,
he was excellent. Yeah.
He always is, and he always should have more major roles, and he never does. Not to my satisfaction, anyway.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither.
So anyway, that's Nick Stahl, and that's That Yellow Bastard Part 1. Just kind of, it sets up the tone. Again, it's kind of like, I like how they broke it in two because it along with the first part of The Customer Is Always Right, it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the film.
Yes.
You know, at least The Big Fat Kill and The Hard Goodbye are like the two larger chunks / you know, vignettes in there. And I think it helps to set the tone for that too, because we get, you know, Nancy coming back, obviously, and then, you know, some other things happening that are familiar. So it's good.
It's good. It's my least favorite of the others.
Mine too.
But it's good. I mean,
it is.
You know, we got Bruno in here, man. Like,
hey,
what can you say?
I mean, you can't, dude. So just sticking on that for a second, like I was talking to somebody the other day and I told them we were doing Sin City on the show this week, and they mentioned Bruce Willis, and I just, you know, kind of started talking about how, again, how we've talked about it, like it's so easy to pigeonhole him with some of his not greatest roles.
Yeah.
You know, like Hudson Hawk and Armageddon and like, you know, some of these drecky movies that he's done, dude. But, you know, when you really dig in, even in Hudson Hawk, like as crummy as that movie was, like you got to appreciate the spirit of what he was trying to do, you know, and making like kind of a comedy musical, you know, and he's just done so many cool things and so many cool characters, man, and such a diverse group of characters and roles. And this is another great Bruno role, dude, without a doubt.
Look, man, Bruno is as solid as the movie that he is in, right?
Yes.
If it's a shit movie, then, you know, what are you going to do? Although I completely disagree about Hudson Hawk. I find that movie to be very amusing. At least I did the last time I watched it.
Yeah, fair
Armageddon,
enough.
yeah, I'm right with you.
Yeah.
He's a very capable actor. He's got a lot of range. He can do a lot of different kind of shit. And I haven't seen him like phoning it in a lot.
No.
He's either just made a bad choice to be involved in a project, and like the dialogue was shit, or he was miscast.
Miscast or misused.
Yeah, or he was giving it 110%, but maybe the direction he was going in for a role was not like the right.
Yeah.
Didn't play correct, didn't play believable or whatever. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's great. I love Bruno.
Yeah. No. Agreed, man. I think. Yeah, he just he really knocks it out of the park in this one, man. As Hardigan, dude. He's not afraid to unturn any stone in terms of characters, man. And this is a really good one.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear with the audience, we've done a lot of like joking around with Bruno over the years. We do Brucemas. We always pull out the Seagrams, golden wine coolers and shit.
Dude.
But I have the deepest respect for him. I don't.
Totally, man. And this movie is a great example of why I have the deepest respect for him. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He's great at bringing 100% focus to every role that he does, man. And it's like you're in. This is a great example of a Bruno role like 12 Monkeys, where he's fully inhabiting the character, man, and you're there. You're believing that. You know what I mean? You're seeing Hardigan, not Bruce Willis. And that is really, really key. And he nails it.
Sure. I mean, outside of the, having a heart attack, being shot to death, doing
Totally.
8 years in prison, despite the fact that he's like, almost pushing 60 when he like went down, then he gets out. And,
Yeah.
But that's just comic book shit, right? That's not like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, well, I know we can talk about the other half of the story later. Let's are we ready to move on to the big fat kill?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right. So the big fat kill. I'm a huge Clive Owen fan. He's great. And I've seen him in numerous things and enjoyed him in numerous things. And this is no exception, man. I love the way this story opens. This story also is the only one that features Benicio del Toro.
Mm-hmm.
Heavily makeup.
Oh, yeah.
But just doing such an excellent job with that Jackie Boy character, man. It's just so damn good, man.
Yeah, he's terrific.
He crushes
not
it.
as heavily made up as Mickey Rourke, but yeah.
No.
Are we out of order here? I thought the Mickey Rourke one was next.
Oh shoot, you're right. I got confused.
That's okay.
I didn't take my medicine.
Perfect. You meant to do that, didn't you?
I did. All right. So should we keep talking about this one, or should we?
We can. Hey, it's our show, man. We can do whatever we want. Yeah, let's just keep going because we're already on it.
Let's keep going. I can always slice and dice later.
This is my favorite one, man. Out of all of them,
is it really?
I like that one a lot.
Well, tell me about that.
I just do. I just really like it. I like Clive Owen's character. I think he's really good in this. He's got this sort of almost like a Peter Weller-esque thing going on here.
Okay.
Like when he speaks with like when he talks like an American, he sort of has something like akin to a Peter Weller vibe. To me, anyways. I don't know. But anybody else thinks that.
Yeah.
I just, I like the story. I like that he's with Shelley. And he's just like dying to stick up for her with, Jackie Boy, and just where it goes. I like the whole thing where like the prostitutes have like taken over and like do their own sort of like protection. I like the link up there, and like just finding out that Benicio del Toro was a cop, and the kooky like IRA like mercenaries, and like the tar pit, and I don't know. Something about it is charming.
Yeah,
and fun.
Very charming,
man.
man.
It's like it's violent, but like it has a little bit of a lighter sort of air than the rest of them, I think.
And some nice dark humor in the whole sort of back and forth with him and the dead Jack Rafferty.
Yes, yep. With the receiver from his gun stuck in his head.
I know.
And then using his head as a bomb at the end. Like it's like kind of swashbuckling and it's got some scope. There seems like there's more movement in this one than there are in a lot of the other ones. So it's just I like it.
Yeah, you're right. There is a bit more style and a little bit more substance, I guess you could say, in this one. Like the other one, the Marv story is it's like a revenge story kind of. So this one does have that, and it does have some swashbuckling, man. And there's some great kind of swashbuckly moments,
Totally.
like when they think he's dead, but it was really the badge that stopped the bullet.
Yeah,
and
dude,
he
it's
kind
got
of
the
jumps up in
cigarette
that
holder,
very
bullet
dramatic
stop
kind of way.
fucking trope,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. That's a really great comment, man. I think it is really good in that respect, and I really like the way it opens. I like
Yes.
the mean drunks coming over to for the chick, and he's in the apartment the whole time, and just the way that all goes down.
Oh yeah, dude.
With,
he comes out of the shower. He's like,
him
you
and-
made one mistake. You didn't flush.
You forgot to flush. And he's all like, super calm and quiet.
Yep.
I'm Shelly's new boyfriend and I'm out of my mind.
Yeah.
It's great, And I like, this is, very like classic noir. Like Sin City's kind of classic noir in the sense of, like, noir was different because, it was in the 50s and we were getting away from like the weepy, helpless women and getting into these like sort of femme fatale chicks,
Yes.
for the first time in cinema. And, this story, in my opinion, is kind of part that where we've got these stronger female types that are
Hell yeah, man.
femme fatales.
Badass ladies, Miho and Gail, like, yeah.
Exactly. But we also get something that I think is a very modern thing that we've talked about and admired. I think all of us are on the same page. Like, really good women's empowerment, in the form of all of the, the girls of Old Town, controlling their own destiny, policing themselves, like all of that kind of thing.
Yep.
We get bits of both, which I really dig, and men protecting women too, which is a very kind of older kind of theme or trope or whatever you want to call it. And so I really like those elements, and they really stand out a lot in this story, man. And it's cool,
Yes. Yeah, I mean, there's even a little, like, straight up old school. There's, like, the little moment where, like Dwight slaps Gail, and she's like, you're like, oh, fuck. And then she's like, I forgot how fast you were. They start making out.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
This is, definitely old school, but kind of turned on his head and funny in a way.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I don't know, in particular, I like the addition of, it's one thing to have like a bunch of chicks that are like prostitutes and they got a bunch of guns, but then, with the addition of Miho, it's like, you've also got this like sort of little mini samurai in there as well, who really has some skills, and, it's so cool. She doesn't utter like a single word of dialogue in the entire thing, but she features so prominently in that story, man, and she's great. There's so much great action in it.
Total fucking Terminator, basically.
Total Terminator, man.
You can't reason with her.
No, you can't even talk to her. Yeah, it's good. The IRA gang, that was a weird kind of like addition to the story. I don't know. Like I kind of get it. I mean, they were clearly hired to get the head of Rafferty. Like,
yeah.
Like once people found out that Rafferty was dead, it was like this kind of race for all these groups to like, get the body or get the head so that they could destroy the truce, that was kind of keeping Old Town together, man. And that's a big chunk of the thread.
Yes.
And I guess that's, the impetus for the IRA guys. And it has that actor, I can never remember his name, but he's been in like, oh my God, Braveheart and Gladiator, and he's that Irish actor with that scar on his face. He's great. I absolutely love him. He's the guy that, has the grenades.
Tommy Flanagan.
Thank you, Tommy Flanagan, exactly.
Yeah, he looks super familiar.
Yeah. He played Cicero. He played Maximus's, sort of squire in Gladiator.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was one of the kind of the inner circle there of William Wallace in Braveheart. And he's been in a ton of movies,
Westworld.
Dude. Yeah, exactly. He was in
That's where I'm thinking
Westworld.
from, yeah, okay.
He was in The Saint with Val Kilmer, a movie which I love. Yeah, he's been in a bunch of stuff, man. He's great.
Yeah.
So,
It's a great character, a great little part.
yeah, great little part, man. The whole little IRA gang was kind of interesting and weird.
Yeah,
you know?
like interesting, just kind of wacky Irish mercenary crew.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
No doubt. Yeah, it's got lots of that whole that chapter has a lot of like moving parts, and a lot of different characters and a lot of scope, and it's just it plays out great.
It does, and you're right, it does have a lot of moving parts, man. Especially like as the sweater unravels, like, there's a lot of parts there that have to come together to make it work in the end. And it's kind of interesting how it all just ends in this like kind of fiery bloodbath, dude. And then we, move on to the next chapter. But it's a fitting ending, with the head and the bomb and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, and like the whole thing is kind of a nothing burger because clearly, like, Dwight is like back into Gale, It's like, everything is like going out the window, and is like. Yeah, it's the whole like, whatever the hell he says, like she was always mine, but she'll never be mine, or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, my Valkyrie, my warrior woman.
Exactly.
Yeah, really good
stuff.
Okay, so as much as I love The Big Fat Kill, my favorite is still, obviously, because I watched it just this segment 3 extra times this week, and that would be The Hard Goodbye.
Yeah.
And I love the name of it, just like The Big Fat Kill. These are very noir kind of names, very sort of James Elmore,
very much.
Very cool stuff.
Yeah.
And this is like we mentioned this before, like this is a straight up kind of revenge, rampage, killing spree story. But it's also unraveling a mystery as well. And I think that's what's part of what makes this story work so well, at least for me, is that
yes,
Marv is this kind of bruiser, but this is a thinking man's action segment as well, so that's what I think is the killer combo here.
I agree. I don't know. This is like one of my favorite Mickey Rourke
roles ever. Yes.
He's
agree.
Just excellent. The facial prosthetics, etc. aside, he's just really good. He just inhabits that character.
Oh my God!
It's obviously he is the cornerstone of that particular chapter. So
no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, we do get a McCarthy appearance here because this is where we first see McCarthy, and then obviously he's featured prominently in there's the centerpiece of the next story. But
yes,
yeah, Marv is just I cannot say enough. It's I agree with you. This is probably my favorite Mickey Rourke role of all time. It's that good. The prosthetic makeup, just kind of. That plus him just make the character come to life in the best way. And, I was reading a lot about the Marv character, and he's a complex character, man. He's not just a thug. It's like he has religion. He has his mother. He has like a code of honor that he goes by, and he has his own set of rules that he sticks to, like not hurting dames and not hurting dogs. And
yes.
Really only killing people that he feels deserve it, but when he does do that, he's all about hours of torture as well, which I think also works really well and I think is really cool.
Yeah.
So
he's also a lot smarter than he continually gives himself credit for,
Agree.
So yeah, it's
what?
God, whatever.
It's all right.
It's an interesting character. I've got nothing.
Well,
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say he is. I mean, he's a very interesting character, man. And all of those things come together nicely in this Paella, man, to make him such a character. His physicality is great, like the whole like he's got like, sort of not real super strength, but he's got super strength because, I mean, he takes some serious beatings in this. Like he gets hit by a car
fucking
2-3 times.
He's a tank.
Yeah, he's a tank. Exactly. He's completely fine. Yeah. And then, he figures out the sort of the mystery throughout the course of the story. And he's also got agility and skill, and like nobody can sneak up on him, and all this kind of thing.
Absolutely,
so like all those things together, just make him so interesting.
He's very charming too. Like he's just got this way about him where like the people that love him like really love him. Like he's a super like affable, lovable person. Unless you're on the wrong side of him, and then he's the scariest motherfucker you could possibly encounter.
Absolutely, man. And I would also add on the word endearing.
Yes,
I think that those things are what another part of what makes this work so well is that he's so endearing, man. You just like you kind of fall in love with him, and you're just like you're rooting for him the entire time. I mean, despite the fact that he's like killing priests in the church and torturing people in the most gruesome ways.
Yeah.
You can't help but cheer for the guy. You know what I mean?
Well, that's that, over the top, ultra violent comic book stuff.
Totally. But, and then the other thing too is that I just like his lines are great. And his delivery of said lines are so good.
I don't know how many cars I see where the first thing that pops into my head is, the whole
electric shavers.
They all look like electric shavers. Yeah.
I can't do a good Marv.
I love that.
Yes.
It's such a great one. Yeah, it's like a lot. Like there's a lot of Marvisms, and that's one that I will showcase there. But
I agree.
It's good. They got some great. They wrote him really well.
They did write him really well, or Frank Miller wrote him really well. Yeah. And I think too, like the other part that really makes this character great and Mickey Rourke's performance great is just like the introspection. So again, like we've talked about the inner monologue repeatedly in this episode, and in particular, it's kind of towards the end when he's like walking in the rain and he's he's having that inner monologue moment, and he's like, I forgot to take my medicine again.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, maybe I'm just what they always said I was, a maniac, a psycho killer, and it's just like, it's really dark and really introspective and really cool, man. And it's a great monologue piece, dude, that says so much about the character. I really like that.
You know who he reminds me of? Did you ever read or watch the Maxx?
Totally, dude.
Right?
Yes.
It's like that same kind of like, like the Maxx was always like, unsure of what was going on, and like, whether he was like really like, whether he was hallucinating or whether he was like, in reality, like, so he kind of has that element going on. And, I don't, for all I know, like the Maxx borrowed from, Sin City, but
Marv. Yeah.
But either way, like I was getting that kind of similar vibe.
Yeah, that's a really good call, man. The Maxx was very cool. I never read the comic. Like, I was really hot on the Image comics when they came out, but I never read that one. But I did watch it when it got turned into an animated series, and it was really, really well done.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, don't remember a single thing about it, really, but it was excellent, that's for sure. So, good call on that. What else about this one?
I definitely got a kick out of Elijah Wood as the
right,
like Spider-Man, like agile, freaky, psycho cannibal
dude. He was really, really creepy.
Yeah,
he's just like this kind of like nerd with like these like claws, and he like again, had Spider-Man like agility.
Yeah.
Like it was a really good casting choice, man, and he knocked it out of the park again. Not a single line of dialogue, but he didn't need it, man. No, because like Miho, he conveys everything through action and with his expressions, and it's so good, man. Like I always thought he was so creepy every time I watched this.
Absolutely creepy. Yeah, and then I guess I'll throw in. The point kind of gets driven home when we're introduced to Rutger Hauer's character.
Oh my God.
He's like talking about the eating, filled him with like
yes.
white light.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, God. And then I joined him, and you're like, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
And then he like grabs the head and he kisses it at the end. He's like, Kevin, we're going home.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's so creepy.
So
dude.
creepy.
Yeah, and it's such a shame that we didn't get more Rutger Hauer in this story, man. We only get that one scene in the whole movie.
I know.
And then we lost him just recently. Or was it recently that we lost him?
It was pretty, for the past couple of years. Yeah.
The past couple of years, yeah. So it was kind of a bummer, man, that we only got a little bit of him because he's just so damn good, as we've talked about before.
He's excellent, yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't need much time to make an impression. So
No?
that's a excellent part.
Yeah, really, really excellent. All right, should we move on to the final
Yeah.
bit?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Yeah, so that Yellow Bastard Part 2, we get, the way they cut that into two pieces, they sliced it perfectly. So, Hartigan goes down, he gets shot, and then, he ends up going to prison. So now we're seeing the time that he spent in prison and the letters from Cordelia, and then finally his release. And what I really like about this part is that, there's like a great little mystery kind of story in here where it's not just about like, him saving the little girl and then her growing up and then her, falling in love with him and all that stuff. It's like, there's the whole bit of like, the letters, part of the whole thing with the letters was a setup to lead the Yellow Bastard to Nancy. You know what I mean? And he figures it out obviously way too late, but I like that element of it. I think it kind of
right. They bamboozle him with the finger, and he ends up leading him right to her.
Exactly, and that kind of rounds out this segment nicely, man, and ties everything together.
Yeah. It's a little creepy with like Nancy like falling in love with him, and this dude's like fucking pushing 70 at this point, and I guess I don't know, it's a little bizarre there, but.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
And not anywhere near as bad as, the Yellow Bastard and his whole thing.
Pedophily or whatever,
yeah. I didn't remember how this one played out, and I was a little bummed out with the conclusion of the whole thing. That's sort of like what left me with the most impression out of all of this. I was like, oh, really?
Okay.
That's what happens? Like... I don't know. I thought he got like banged up really bad during the entire, encounter and, ended up going out from that. But the fact that he offed himself was kind of, I don't know. I get it. I get why he did it.
Wait. You're talking about Hardigan, right?
Yeah.
Wait, how does this one wrap up again? I can't remember.
Well, they get away from, he completely disarms the Yellow Bastard. I will put it that way.
Yeah. Takes his,
They get away. Nancy takes off in the Ferrari, and he's like, yeah, I'll totally catch up with you. And then he, inner monologues that like, if he's still around, there'll always be a way for, Powers Booth to find her, et cetera.
Right.
And then he shoots himself.
Yeah, wow, that's really tragic.
Which is kind of a bummer, but it's in...
Yeah, it is a bummer.
It's in, like, keeping with the whole, like, an old man dies, a young girl lives. It's a fair trade.
Sure.
Like, it's sort of like the, much like the heart-shaped bed opens and closes, the one with Marv, that's sort of the theme on this one. Like, it closes the first one, and then it closes the second one. So,
yeah, that's a good point. Wow, I forgot about that, but I like that because it adds a tragic bit to this story, and I'm all for that. I mean, as sad as it is, like it makes for good storytelling.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean,
I think so.
It at least makes a tidy ending, Otherwise,
yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, what do you have? Like they go off and live happily,
drive off together and live in a cabin somewhere.
Yeah,
exactly. No, dude,
yeah.
That's too stupid.
Yeah,
that
wouldn't work.
Too stupid.
I get it. I totally get it. I just like in my memory, like he got fucked up in the encounter with the Yellow Bastard and like died, and she took off. Like, anyways,
I really like Nick Stahl in this one. The makeup is excellent. I love the use of the color yellow, man. You know, it's really fitting for the character, and like when he talks about the stink, the
Yes.
yellow color kind of really lends to that, you know, and I can really
Right.
imagine that, like that stink.
Sulfur.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. For me, I kind of was thinking of like, I don't know, maybe sulfur, maybe like some kind of, you know, like filthy, like animal type of smell, like a urine combined with garbage or something. I don't know what,
Hot
dude, but
garbage.
something, yeah, hot garbage and urine, you know. And I'm not trying to be funny, but
No,
you know,
that's an interesting that's an interesting angle. Like, you know, what did you think the yellow bastard
yeah, right. What did
smelled
you
like?
think it smelled like?
Yeah.
Well, he just keeps commenting on it. You know, he's like, "Oh, I got his blood all over me," and it's like the stink of it. You know, is just so intense.
Like,
you know,
literally at one point he's like, I thought he smelled bad on the outside. You know?
yeah. Nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I really like that. I thought it was just lent well to the story and accentuated it.
Yeah, I like that. It's weird that he's yellow and that he stinks, and we don't know why, but it's a side effect of like basically trying to grow his junk back. Like,
Yeah.
so he went through some weird experimental thing that like left him fucked up. But I like that they didn't show how that happened, and they didn't explain anything really. They're just like, here it is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that too, for sure. All right, so let's close it out with, I mean, we don't really need to talk about the last segment, which is the customer is always right. You know, Josh Hartnett killing Becky. I do like that she gets greased because I think she had it coming.
Well, it's fitting
it.
for the way, you know, justice works in the city, right? So
Absolutely.
and it ties the whole thing together, you know,
Yeah.
front to back.
Yeah. Why don't we bits and bobs our favorite lines or some great moments quickly, and then we can, do the rest.
Yeah, I don't have any nuggets per se.
No, I don't really have any nuggets per se either.
I don't know. I mean, we kind of bitted and bobbed our way through this by route of how we went about it.
Fair enough.
I said it before, but I got to go back for the electric shaver one. That one pops into my head all the time. It's like,
yeah,
it's really good
and very fitting for modern cars as well.
That's true, right? It's totally true. So yeah.
So kudos to that. I'm gonna say, firstly, I love when Marv starts kind of working his way through the city to figure out what's going on. He's driving the car down the road, and he's got a guy, and he's got the door open, and he's dragging the car.
Yes.
And
yeah.
he says, "I don't know about you, but I'm having a ball." That's great, dude. I think most of my highlight things are kind of like really cool shots, cinematic shots, or Marv lines. To that end, when he's finally confronts Rourke at the end, and Rourke's like, will that give you satisfaction, my son? And he goes, the killing part, no. Everything up to that, be a gas.
Yeah.
It's just so good, man. So twisted.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else. I think just kind of a general shout out to the cinematography in general, man. I just love the way this movie looks, and I think the shots are great. You know, very comic book and very dramatic and very noir and very cool.
Yeah, it's unique. There wouldn't be a reason to do it that way other than to try and bring what's on the panels of the comic book to life. So yeah, it's gorgeous. Yeah, I don't know the swirly scene.
Swirly. Which one? With the guy that he got the info from, or from Jackie Boy?
No, the literally the Jackie Boys. You know, when you get your head flushed, it's known as a swirly. So,
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Oh, there's another swirly in this, isn't there?
Mm.
Doesn't am I imagining that? I'm trying to remember now.
No, there's another swirly in the Marv segment. Dude,
Yes. Okay.
Where, okay. Where he.
I thought so.
Yeah. And there's a couple turds in there too.
Oh God, that's right.
Yeah, it's super nasty.
Oh yeah. Why?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yep. Anyway.
You know what? I'm going to do... Sorry, I want to do a big shout out to Brittany Murphy, man.
Oh, yeah, do it.
I just really, really miss her, man. And seeing her in this movie, she's just so great. She just died way too young. And she was excellent, man. And I'm a big fan of her in this movie, and I'm a big fan of most of her work, and especially as Luann in King of the Hill, which a lot of people don't know she did.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, shout out to Brittany Murphy. She's such a super talent, man. Wish we still had her. And that's all I got for that.
I'm ashamed to admit I don't know when I don't remember hearing about it. Yeah, but
that was a while ago.
Yeah.
Dude. She's been gone for a little while.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Nuggets. My computer's about to shit the bed, dude.
None.
Nuggets. So
0.
I don't really have any other than it's kind of interesting how Michael Madsen got the role of Bob in this. He went to the rap party for Kill Bill, and he just walked up to him and was like, "Why didn't you cast me in this movie?" So Robert Rodriguez was like, "Okay." Gave him the only part that hadn't been cast, which I think is pretty cool.
But again, He was right. He should have been in this movie. Michael Madsen is just that. He fits right in there. Yeah.
All right, moving right along. Deaths. There's only one that I recorded anyway, and that would be me ejecting on Sin City. We've various different ejections, but yeah, not a whole lot of deaths in the death section this week. Right.
We might be dead based on not knowing about for sure one way or the other with the opening.
Yeah.
That's
it. Okay, ratings.
This was a super entertaining watch. Although it was a little bizarre with the UHD. I've come around on it. I wasn't quite sure at first. I'm going to go with like a 7 7/8.
Yeah, nice. Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this movie a 10.
Dude, fucking A.
Yeah, it's that good. It's a modern noir film.
Mm-hmm.
It's an excellent adaptation or translation, as the creators call it, of a comic book movie. The performances are excellent. The dialogue's excellent. The cinematography is fantastic, man. Absolutely love Mickey Rourke in this. It's just that good, man. So 10, 10, 10 all the way around. I love watching this movie.
Sweet.
So, Chad, what are we doing next week? Chad's not there. Whoa! All right, so next week, folks, we're going to be tackling Season 3 of The Mandalorian. And boy, am I sure excited for that. How about you, Benny?
Yeah.
There you have it, folks. Benny's excited. So, thanks for joining us for Sin City, and stay tuned next week for Season 3 of Mando, The Mandalorian. Right here on the EBD podcast. So long for now, folks.
Ciao. Thanks for listening.
And that's going to wrap up this week's episode. Folks, if you'd like to check out the show notes, you can sure do so in your podcast app of choice or at our website, ebd.fm/episodes/204. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so in a number of wonderful ways. You can pay us directly on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/EBD podcast. You can also rate us and review us, which would be super helpful, even though nobody really does it, on iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. And then you can also tell your friends to check out the show. That's helpful too. So, yeah, thanks for joining us for Sin City. We'll see you next week for Mando 3, and that's it. We're out of here. Bye.
Beady, beady, beady. Stop into it.
Rock out with our cocks out.